You know what they say about Galactic higher education. It's expensive, pretentious, and apparently designed by beings who've never met a human before. Which brings me to Advanced Toxicology 411, where I'm currently the only representative of Earth sitting in a classroom that looks like it was designed by someone who really hates corners. My name's Jake Martinez, and I'm what the admissions brochure cheerfully calls a diversity admit. What they mean is I'm the token human in a program that's 99% various species of aliens who think they're hot stuff because they can survive in 3 different atmospheric compositions. Big whoop. I can survive on gas station burritos. Professor Kleck stands at the front of the room, all 7 feet of uptight Vorkan nervousness, his 4 eye stalks twitching like he's perpetually checking for germs. Which, knowing Kleck's, he probably is. The guy sanitizes his tentacles between every sentence. His species evolved on a planet where everything was trying to poison everything else. So naturally, he became a toxicology professor. It's like becoming a swimming instructor because you're afraid of water. Today's simulation will test your resistance to Class C environmental toxins, Klex announces, his voice carrying that wonderful tone professors use when they're about to make your day significantly worse. Remember, this is a controlled environment. The holographic projectors will simulate exposure without actual risk. Right, controlled environment. That's what they said about my freshman orientation when dining services accidentally served plutonian sea slugs in the cafeteria. 3 species ended up in the medical bay and I asked for seconds. Let me introduce you to my classmates, because they're about to become very important to this story, assuming any of us survive the next hour. There's Mumbles, though that's not his real name. His actual name sounds like someone gargling marbles underwater while having an existential crisis. He's what you might generously call a gelatinous blob, if blobs could achieve anxiety disorders. Mumbles is constantly worried about something, usually contamination, usually for good reason. His species absorbs toxins through their skin, which makes this whole toxicology thing kind of like a human taking a class called Creative Ways to Get Punched in the Face. Then we have Razor, an insectoid from the warrior planet Chitinous Prime, where apparently everything is settled through combat and aggressive posturing. She's got 6 arms, mandibles that could crack titanium, and the charming personality of someone who's never heard the word no without following it up with violence. Razor thinks toxicology is beneath her warrior code, but she's here because her commanding officers decided she needed to learn about subtle warfare. Subtle, right. This is a being who considers a machete a precision instrument. Finally, there's Whisper, a crystalline creature from the high-gravity world of resonance. Everything about Whisper glows faintly, including her superiority complex. She's one of those beings who knows everything about everything, and isn't shy about telling you. Her species communicates through harmonic frequencies, which means when she talks, it sounds like someone playing a xylophone made of wind chimes. Beautiful, sure, but try listening to a 2-hour lecture about molecular toxin absorption delivered in what sounds like a New Age meditation soundtrack. These are my study partners. These are the beings I'm supposed to collaborate with on group projects. These are the creatures who represent the finest academic minds in their respective systems. God help us all. Professor Klex is fiddling with the control panel, his eye stalks focused on different readouts while his main hands work the interface. The classroom is sealed, naturally. Can't have any actual toxins escaping during a simulation. The walls are some kind of bio-responsive material that can supposedly filter out anything short of a direct nuclear blast. The Academy spared no expense on safety features, which should probably make me feel better than it does. Initiating Toxin Simulation Protocol 77 Alpha, Klex announces. Remember, class, observe your body's responses carefully. Document any sensations, changes in perception, or physiological variations. This data will comprise 40% of your final grade. 40% of my grade is going to be based on how well I can describe feeling poisoned. I've paid more in tuition fees than most planets spend on their annual defense budgets. And this is what I get? My parents back on Earth think I'm getting a prestigious education. They have no idea I'm basically paying to get fake poisoned by a germophobic tentacle monster while 3 alien weirdos take notes. Mumbles is already vibrating with nervous energy, his gelatinous form rippling like disturbed jello. Razor is cracking her knuckles, because apparently that's how insectoid warriors prepare for academic exercises. Whisper is glowing brighter, her crystalline structure humming in what I assume is anticipation, though with her, it could just as easily be condescension set to music. And me? I'm wondering if the Academy cafeteria is still serving those Andromedan noodles for lunch, and whether I remembered to pack my emergency hot sauce. Because let's be honest, If I'm going to sit through another one of Klex's lectures, I'm going to need something to make it interesting. Professor Klex's primary eye stalk swivels toward the class. Is everyone prepared? Remember, while this is merely a simulation, your bodies may still react to the holographic stimuli. Some species experience psychosomatic responses to simulated toxins. Bring it on, Professor, I say, leaning back in my chair. I had Taco Bell for breakfast. I think I can handle whatever your fancy computer wants to throw at me. 3 of Klex's eye stalks focus on me with what I've learned to recognize as barely contained academic frustration. The 4th keeps monitoring his control panel because priorities. He hits the activation button. You know that moment in horror movies where everything's going fine and then suddenly it's really, really not? Yeah, that's about to happen. Except this isn't a movie, this is my life, and the special effects budget apparently includes actual deadly gas. The holographic projectors hum to life, filling the air with a faint shimmer that's supposed to represent Xerion gas. Xerion gas, for those keeping track at home, is a lovely little compound that supposedly causes mild disorientation and temporary respiratory irritation in most species. Think of it as the galactic equivalent of getting a whiff of cleaning products. Unpleasant, educational, but ultimately harmless in a controlled environment. Professor Klex is watching his readouts with the focused intensity of someone who's built his entire career on not accidentally killing his students. His eye stalks are darting between displays, checking atmospheric composition, toxin concentration levels, and probably 17 different safety protocols that exist because someone somewhere sued an academy for wrongful death by hologram. Atmospheric saturation at 2% and climbing, he announces. Remember to document your initial responses. Mumbles, how are you feeling? Mumbles is starting to look less like anxious jello and more like jello that's been left out in the sun too long. His gelatinous form is developing these weird ripples, like someone's dropping stones into a pond made of nervous energy. Professor, he gurgles, this feels different than last time, more intense. Klex's primary eye stalk swivels to his control panel. That's within normal parameters. Your species tends to be more sensitive to atmospheric changes than others. Except here's the thing about normal parameters. They're only normal when everything's working the way it's supposed to work. And judging by the way Razor is starting to scratch at her exoskeleton like she's got the world's worst case of chitinous hives, I'm beginning to suspect that maybe, just maybe, something is not working the way it's supposed to work. Professor Klex, Whisper chimes in, her crystalline structure flickering like a dying light bulb. My harmonic resonance is detecting actual molecular compounds in the atmosphere. This isn't holographic simulation data. Now, when the know-it-all crystalline being who can literally sense molecular structures tells you something's wrong, that's what we humans call a clue. A big, glowing, harmonically resonant clue that maybe it's time to hit the panic button. But Professor Kleps is doing that thing academics do when reality doesn't match their lesson plan. He's double-checking his data instead of accepting that his fancy equipment might be trying to kill us all. That's impossible, he mutters, 3 eye stalks now focused on different readouts. The containment protocols are functioning normally. Holographic projectors are operating within specifications. Meanwhile, Mumbles is starting to look less like Jell-O, and more like Jell-O that's been attacked by acid rain. Parts of his gelatinous form are actually beginning to dissolve, which is either the most realistic holographic simulation in galactic history, or we're about to find out why Xerion gas is banned in 47 star systems. Razor is clacking her mandibles in what I've learned to recognize as insectoid panic. Her 6 arms are scratching at her exoskeleton, leaving actual grooves in what's supposed to be nearly indestructible bioarmor. Something's wrong, she hisses. This isn't simulation, this is real. And that's when the emergency lockdown kicks in. You know what's worse than being accidentally poisoned by your professor's malfunctioning equipment? Being accidentally poisoned by your professor's malfunctioning equipment while trapped in a sealed room with no way out. The Academy's safety protocols are very thorough. If there's any chance of contamination, the room seals itself tighter than a politician's campaign promises, and nothing gets in or out until the all-clear is given. Which would be great if the contamination was coming from outside. Red lights start flashing, because apparently even in space, emergency lighting has to be red. A synthetic voice begins announcing emergency containment protocol activated in that calm, helpful tone that emergency systems use when they're about to make your day significantly worse. Professor Klex is now officially panicking. All 4 eye stalks are focused on his control panel. His tentacles are flying over the interface faster than I can track, and he's making sounds that I think are curse words in Vorthan. Either that or he's trying to summon something, which, honestly, wouldn't surprise me at this point. The atmospheric recycling system has been compromised, he announces, his voice climbing toward the upper registers of academic terror. There appears to be a leak in the primary containment matrix. A leak in the primary containment matrix. That's professor speak for, the thing that's supposed to keep the deadly gas from killing us all has decided to take an unscheduled break. Mumbles is now about 70% of his original size and shrinking. Razor's exoskeleton is developing cracks that definitely weren't there when class started. Whisper's crystalline structure is dimming, like someone's turning down her brightness settings. And me? I'm sitting here thinking that the air tastes a little funny, kind of metallic, but mainly I'm wondering if anyone's going to cancel the midterm exam over this, or if Professor Klex is going to expect us to take it from our hospital beds. The emergency voice continues its helpful announcements. Lockdown duration, 30 minutes minimum. Emergency response teams have been notified. 30 minutes. 30 minutes trapped in a sealed room with actual deadly gas, while my classmates slowly dissolve, crack, and dim respectively. 30 minutes to contemplate my life choices, like why I thought studying toxicology on an alien space station was a good career move. But hey, at least I'm getting that prestigious galactic education my parents are paying for. 20 minutes into our unscheduled poisoning experience, and things are going about as well as you'd expect when your professor accidentally tries to kill you with his teaching aids. Mumbles is now roughly the size and consistency of a deflated basketball. The poor guy keeps trying to speak, but what comes out sounds like someone gargling with gravel while drowning in pudding. His species absorbs toxins through their entire surface area, which makes him basically a living sponge for whatever nasty chemicals are floating around in here. He's gone from anxious blob to tragic puddle in record time. Mumbles, buddy, you hanging in there? I ask, because apparently I'm the only one in this room who isn't too busy dying to make conversation. His response sounds like, glub blorp help, which I'm interpreting as either please help me or I'm experiencing an existential crisis about the nature of consciousness as my physical form dissolves. With Mumbles, it could honestly go either way. Razor's having her own special brand of fun. Her exoskeleton, which she's always bragging about being stronger than starship hull plating, now looks like someone took a sledgehammer to a ceramic vase. Cracks are spreading across her carapace in an artistic spiderweb pattern that would be beautiful if it wasn't indicating imminent structural failure of her entire body. She's trying to maintain her warrior dignity, but it's hard to look intimidating when you're basically falling apart like a badly assembled piece of furniture. This is not how a warrior dies, she keeps muttering through her mandibles. This is not honorable. This is stupid. I have to agree with her there. There's nothing particularly glorious about being accidentally gassed to death in a classroom because your professor couldn't work his fancy equipment properly. Whisper, meanwhile, is experiencing what I can only describe as the world's most depressing light show. Her crystalline structure, normally bright enough to read by, is flickering like a dying fluorescent bulb in a haunted office building. The harmonic frequencies she usually produces have dropped to what sounds like whale songs played through a broken speaker. The molecular bonds of my crystalline matrix are destabilizing, she announces in a voice that sounds like wind chimes in a funeral parlor. This compound is specifically designed to disrupt silicon-based life forms. Well, that's just fantastic. Not only is the gas real, it's apparently military-grade stuff that's engineered to kill specific types of aliens. I'm starting to think this wasn't an accident. Either someone has it out for Advanced Toxicology 4201, or Professor Klex has been running the galaxy's most dangerous classroom for years without realizing it. Speaking of Professor Klex, he's having what I can only describe as a complete academic meltdown. All 4 of his eye stalks are streaming some kind of fluid that I assume are tears, though with his species you never know, it could be mucus, hydraulic fluid, or just normal Tuesday secretions. This is impossible, he keeps repeating, while frantically working his control panel. The safety protocols are foolproof. The Academy inspected this equipment last month. The insurance coverage specifically excludes incidents involving actual toxin exposure. Ah yes, insurance coverage, because that's what I want to hear about while my classmates are dissolving around me. I'm sure my parents will be comforted to know that my death was properly documented for liability purposes. The emergency voice continues its helpful updates. Emergency response team ETA 15 minutes. Atmospheric toxin levels rising. Have a nice day. Have a nice day. Someone programmed a death trap to wish us well. That's either the height of galactic politeness, or the universe's idea of a joke. Here's the weird thing, though. While everyone else is busy dying creatively, I'm just sitting here feeling mildly annoyed about the whole situation. The air tastes funny, sure, like licking a battery while chewing aluminum foil, but other than that I feel fine. Actually, I feel kind of hungry. Professor, I call out, is it normal for humans to not be affected by this stuff? Because I've got to tell you, I've felt worse after eating cafeteria sushi. 3 of Klex's eye stalks swivel toward me with an expression that I think is supposed to be scientific interest mixed with disbelief. The 4th keeps monitoring his readouts, because apparently even during a crisis, multitasking is important. That's highly irregular, he gasps. Xerion gas affects all carbon-based life forms. The molecular structure specifically targets respiratory and circulatory systems. Well, maybe I'm not carbon-based enough for it, I suggest. Or maybe it's because I grew up in Los Angeles. You build up a tolerance to toxic atmospheric conditions after a while. Razor makes a sound that might be laughter, if laughter could crack exoskeletons. Human jokes. Even now, she wheezes. Meanwhile, Mumbles has progressed from deflated basketball to what looks like a slightly green puddle with aspirations. I'm pretty sure he's still conscious, because the puddle keeps making distressed gurgling sounds, but he's definitely not in any shape to take notes for his lab report. Whisper's light show is getting dimmer by the minute. Jake, she chimes weakly, your species' toxin resistance is unexpectedly robust. Unexpectedly robust. That's going on my resume right under willing to relocate and proficient in Microsoft Office. Jake Martinez. Unexpectedly robust in the face of deadly alien gases. The truth is, I don't feel robust. I feel normal. I feel like I'm sitting in a slightly stuffy classroom listening to my professor have a nervous breakdown, while my classmates perform interpretive dance versions of various forms of dying. The only thing that's bothering me is that I skipped breakfast, and watching people dissolve is making me work up an appetite. Hey professor, I call out, how much longer do you think this is going to take? Because I've got lunch plans and I'm starting to get hungry. All 4 eye stalks focus on me now, which is either flattering attention or the stare of someone who's realized that one of his students might be some kind of monster. You're hungry? Klex asks, his voice climbing toward the upper range of Vorthan incredulity. Yeah, I mean, stress eating is a thing, right? Plus, I had to get up early for this class, so I didn't have time for breakfast. Do you think the emergency response team would bring snacks? You know what they say about desperate times calling for desperate measures? Well, apparently my desperate measure is pulling out my lunch bag and having a picnic while my classmates experience various forms of chemical-induced death. I reach into my backpack and pull out what I like to call my survival kit. Most species in the galaxy pack emergency rations, medical supplies, or communication devices. I pack snacks. Specifically, I pack Earth snacks, because Academy food is bland enough to make cardboard seem flavorful. Okay, let's see what we've got here, I say, unzipping my insulated lunch bag. Turkey sandwich with ghost pepper mustard, some chips with Carolina Reaper seasoning, and oh look, I brought my emergency hot sauce. I hold up a small bottle filled with what looks like liquid fire. The label reads Satan's Last Resort. Warning may cause spontaneous combustion in non-humans. Professor Klex's remaining functional eye stalk focuses on the bottle, with the kind of horror usually reserved for natural disasters or tax audits. Jake, he wheezes. That substance is classified as a biochemical weapon in 47 star systems. Really? I examine the bottle more closely. Huh. The label just says it's made with habaneros, ghost peppers, and something called Trinidad Moruga Scorpion, plus some vinegar and garlic. I got it from a truck stop in Arizona. The room has gone quiet, except for the sound of Mumbles gurgling, Razor's exoskeleton creaking, and Whisper's crystalline structure humming at frequencies that suggest existential despair. Even the emergency announcement system seems to be taking a break from reminding us that we're all going to die. A truck stop, Klex repeats faintly. Yeah, they had this whole display of hot sauces next to the beef jerky. The guy behind the counter said this one was mild compared to the good stuff, so I figured it was perfect for the Academy cafeteria food. You know how everything here tastes like it was seasoned by someone who's afraid of flavor? I take a bite of my sandwich, and immediately the air around me seems to clear up a bit. That metallic taste from the Xerion gas fades, replaced by the familiar burn of capsaicin and regret. It's like having a small volcano erupt in your mouth, but in a good way. Oh man, this is hitting the spot, I say around a mouthful of sandwich. Hey, you guys want some? I know you're all busy dying and everything, but this might help. Razor makes a sound that's either laughter or her respiratory system failing, hard to tell with insectoids. Human, she rasps. Your food is more toxic than the gas that's killing us. That's kind of the point, I say, pulling out a bag of chips that's labeled, warning not suitable for life forms. See, the way I figure it, if you're already being poisoned, maybe you need to fight poison with poison. It's like homeopathic medicine, but with more crying. I offered the bag to Mumbles, who's still mostly a puddle but seems to be paying attention. Come on, buddy. What's the worst that could happen? You're already dissolving. The puddle that used to be Mumbles makes a sound that might be agreement, desperation, or just gas escaping from what's left of his digestive system. I sprinkle some of the chip powder into what I think is probably his mouth area. The reaction is immediate. The puddle starts bubbling, then smoking slightly, then slowly beginning to reform into something that looks less like spilled jello and more like an actual life form. Within seconds, Mumbles has regained about half his original size and consistency. What the hell? He gurgles, and his voice actually sounds normal again. I feel better. Also like my entire body is on fire, but better. Professor Klex's eye stalks are now focused on me with the intensity of someone witnessing either a miracle or the end of the universe. That's scientifically impossible. Earth spices can't neutralize Xerian gas. Maybe not, I say, offering some hot sauce to Razor. But they might be able to neutralize the effects. I mean, think about it. This gas is designed to disrupt biological systems, right? Well, Earth food is basically designed to assault biological systems too. Maybe they cancel each other out. Razor takes the bottle with two of her remaining functional arms and stares at it like it might explode. This substance is banned in my home system's military arsenals. Yeah, but you're not trying to conquer anything with it. You're just trying to not die. Big difference. She tilts the bottle toward her mandibles and takes what I assume is a sip, though with insectoids it's more like injecting liquid directly into their exoskeleton. The cracks in her carapace immediately start smoking, and for a moment I think I've just murdered my classmate with condiments. Then the cracks start closing. Not healing exactly, but sealing themselves like someone's filling them in with superglue. Within minutes, Razor looks less like a broken vase and more like a functional warrior again. By the battle codes of Chitinous Prime, she breathes. This is the most painful thing I've ever experienced. I want more. Whisper is watching all this with the dim glow of someone whose worldview is being systematically dismantled by snack food. This violates everything I know about biochemistry, she chimes weakly. Hey, welcome to Earth Science, I say, offering her my backup hot sauce. Half our medical discoveries happened because someone ate the wrong thing and lived to tell about it. Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin because he forgot to clean his petri dishes. I discovered that ghost peppers cure space poisoning because I brought lunch to class. She takes the bottle with crystalline appendages that are visibly trembling. If this kills me, I want it noted that I died in the name of science. If this kills you, I want it noted that you died because you took dietary advice from a guy who considers Taco Bell a food group. Whisper applies a single drop of the hot sauce to her crystalline structure. The effect is like plugging her into a power source. Her entire body flares with light, then settles into a steady glow that's brighter than she's been all semester. I can feel my molecular bonds stabilizing, she announces, her voice now sounding like wind chimes made of pure energy. The capsaicin compounds are somehow neutralizing the silicon disruptors in the Xerion gas. Professor Klex is staring at all of us like we've just performed a magic trick using materials from a hardware store. This is impossible. You're telling me that Earth cuisine, substances banned as weapons of mass destruction in most civilized systems, can neutralize one of the most effective biotoxins in the galaxy? I'm telling you that my lunch just saved our lives, I say, taking another bite of my sandwich. Also, I'm pretty sure this makes me the most dangerous person in this classroom, which is hilarious because I couldn't pass basic combat training if my life depended on it. And the emergency announcement system chooses that moment to provide an update. Emergency response team, ETA 5 minutes. Atmospheric toxin levels still rising. Survival probability, please consult your insurance provider. Well, I say, packing up the remains of my lunch, looks like the cavalry's almost here. Anyone want seconds before they show up and start asking awkward questions about why we're all still alive? The emergency response team breaks through the classroom door exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds later, which I know because Whisper has been counting down in harmonious time signatures ever since she got her glow back. They come crashing in, wearing full hazmat suits, carrying enough medical equipment to stock a small hospital, and radiating the kind of professional competence that makes you feel simultaneously safer and more worried about what they expected to find. The lead responder stops dead in his tracks when he sees us all sitting around looking perfectly fine, albeit smelling like a Mexican restaurant that's been attacked by chemical weapons. Status report, he barks through his suit's communication system, which makes him sound like a robot with authority issues. Professor Klex, who has spent the last few minutes trying to process the fact that his students just performed medical miracles using snack food, gestures weakly with two of his eye stalks. The atmospheric breach has been contained. Toxin levels are, well, they're actually higher than when we started, but somehow everyone's recovered. That's impossible, the responder says, consulting a handheld scanner that's probably more expensive than my entire education. These readings show lethal concentrations of xerion gas, plus what appears to be, wait, is that capsaicin? And something called oleoresin capsicum? That would be my lunch, I say helpfully. Turkey sandwich with ghost pepper mustard, some Carolina Reaper chips, and emergency hot sauce. You know, the essentials. The responder's helmet swivels toward me with mechanical precision. Through his visor, I can see what appears to be a centaurian, which explains the 4 eyes that are all currently focused on me, with varying degrees of disbelief. Sir, you're telling me you brought Class A biotoxins into a controlled, academic environment? I'm telling you I brought lunch into a classroom. The fact that my lunch happens to be classified as a weapon of mass destruction in most star systems is more of a commentary on galactic dietary standards than my meal planning. Behind the lead responder, the rest of the emergency team is setting up decontamination equipment and atmospheric scrubbers. One of them, a tall blue creature with too many arms, approaches Professor Klex with a data pad. Professor, we're going to need a full incident report. What was the source of the atmospheric breach? Klex's eye stalks droop in what I've learned to recognize as academic shame. Equipment malfunction in the holographic projection system. A microfracture in the containment matrix allowed actual xerion gas to enter the classroom atmosphere. And the students survived how exactly? Professor Klex looks at me, then at my empty lunch bag, then back at the emergency responder. They ate Earth food. The blue creature's multiple arms stop moving simultaneously, which is actually kind of impressive. They ate what? Earth. Food. Kex enunciates each word like he's trying to convince himself it's real. Specifically, substances that are banned in 47 star systems for being too dangerous for military use. At this point, the lead responder is looking at his scanner, then at us, then back at his scanner like it's personally betrayed him. Sir, are you telling me that these students survived lethal gas exposure by consuming chemical warfare agents disguised as recreational consumables? That's about the size of it, I say. Although I prefer to think of it as lunch with a kick. The emergency team exchanges looks that probably translate to, "We don't get paid enough for this," in multiple languages. The lead responder keys his communicator. Control, this is Emergency Response Team 7. We have a Code Yellow situation. Repeat, Code Yellow. All students are alive and stable, but we're going to need a xenobiology specialist and someone from the Department of Hazardous Substances Control. Code Yellow. I have no idea what that means, but it sounds like the kind of thing that ends up in incident reports that get filed in very secure locations. 20 minutes later, I'm sitting in what the Academy politely calls an interview room, but which looks suspiciously like an interrogation chamber. Across from me sits Director Vexnera, a Silithan whose species evolved from predators and never quite got over it. She's got the kind of smile that suggests she's considering whether I'd be better grilled or sautéed. Mr. Martinez, she says, consulting a data pad that's probably thicker than most academic textbooks. According to your student file, you're carrying enough restricted substances to level a small city. According to my lunch bag, I'm carrying enough flavor to make Academy food edible. Different perspectives, I guess. She slides the data pad across the table. It's open to what looks like a chemical analysis report that goes on for several pages. This is the composition breakdown of the substances you brought to class today. Would you care to explain why you're in possession of molecular compounds that require special permits in 73 star systems? I look at the report. It's full of scientific names I can't pronounce and molecular diagrams that look like abstract art. This is my hot sauce, isn't it? This is a biochemical weapon capable of incapacitating most known life forms within minutes of exposure. It's also really good on tacos. Director Vexnera leans back in her chair, which creaks ominously under her weight. Mr. Martinez, do you understand that what happened today shouldn't be possible? Xerion gas is specifically designed to be lethal to carbon-based life forms. Your species shouldn't have any natural resistance to it. Maybe we don't have natural resistance, I suggest. Maybe we just have natural tolerance for things that would kill other species. I mean, humans drink alcohol for fun, eat processed sugar by the pound, and consider deep-fried butter a reasonable snack food. We're basically walking biological hazards already. She makes a note on another data pad. The Academy is going to have to completely recalibrate our toxicology safety standards. What you consider mild seasoning registers higher on our danger scales than most military-grade chemical weapons. Does this mean I'm in trouble for bringing lunch to class? Mr. Martinez, you're not in trouble. You're being recruited. The Department of Xenobiological Research wants to study your species' resistance to toxins. The Military Academy wants to weaponize your dietary habits, and the Galactic Health Organization wants to classify Earth as a biohazard zone. I think about this for a moment. What does that mean for me, practically speaking? Director Vexnara's predatory smile widens. It means your tuition just got a lot more expensive. Hazard pay for professors, specialized containment facilities, and insurance premiums that would bankrupt most planets. Great, I sigh. My parents are going to love that. 3 months later, and I'm standing in front of Advanced Toxicology 411's replacement classroom, which now has more warning signs than a nuclear waste facility and enough safety equipment to outfit a small army. The door alone has 17 different locks, 3 atmospheric scanners, and a sign that reads, "Caution, Human-Occupied Learning Environment," in 42 languages. I'm no longer just a student. According to my new ID card, I'm Jake Martinez, Certified Biological Hazard and Associate Instructor of Applied Toxin Resistance. It's not the career path I expected, but it comes with a pretty decent salary and the kind of job security you get when you're literally irreplaceable. Welcome to Extreme Toxin Resistance through Earth Nutrition, I announced to my new class of 12 very nervous-looking aliens who've all signed extensive liability waivers. Today we'll be starting with something mild. Who's ever heard of black pepper? 8 of them immediately raise their appendages, claws, or tentacles. The other 4 are too busy checking their life insurance policies. Great. Now, who can tell me why black pepper was once considered more valuable than gold in human trading? A small reptilian creature in the front row raises a scaled hand. Because it's a Class D respiratory irritant? Because it tastes good on eggs, I correct. The respiratory irritation is just a bonus. Now let's talk about what happens when we combine black pepper with something really dangerous, like cinnamon. The collective intake of breath from 12 different atmospheric processing systems creates a sound like a small tornado. One student, a floating gas creature from the nebula colonies, actually deflates slightly. "Professor Martinez," she whispers, "cinnamon is banned under the Galactic Chemical Weapons Treaty. It's also banned in most Academy dining facilities because of an incident involving French toast and a diplomatic delegation from Pristine 7, I say, pulling out a small shaker. But we're going to start with just a pinch. My original classmates have become something like celebrities on campus. Mumbles now runs a support group for beings who've survived chemical exposure, though he's developed what he calls a mild addiction to paprika and has to attend Spice Eaters Anonymous meetings twice a week. Razor has parlayed her experience into a military consulting career, advising various warrior cultures on advanced chemical warfare techniques involving human dietary practices. She's made a fortune selling what she calls combat seasonings to armies across 3 star systems, though she still insists that sriracha is too intense for actual combat use. Whisper has written 17 academic papers on the biochemical interactions between capsaicin compounds and silicon-based life forms. She's won 3 prestigious research awards and founded the field of edible toxicology. She's also developed a concerning habit of asking me to just put a drop of hot sauce on everything she analyzes. Professor Klex is in therapy. Not just regular therapy, but specialized trauma counseling for educators who've accidentally tried to kill their students with malfunctioning equipment. He's also been reassigned to teach theoretical toxicology for non-hazardous species, which is basically poison studies for beings who aren't walking biochemical weapons. His new classroom has a sign that reads, "No humans, human food products, or human-adjacent substances permitted," in 73 languages. I tried to visit him once to drop off some mild salsa as a peace offering, and security had to escort me away after he started having what they politely called academic stress responses. The Academy has had to completely restructure its insurance policies. They now have a separate category for human-related incidents. That includes subcategories like accidental poisoning by lunch, structural damage from carbonated beverages, and mass hospitalization due to shared snacks. My parents' tuition payments now include a line item for hazardous species containment that costs more than most planets' annual defense budgets. My dorm room has been reclassified as a level 4 biohazard zone. I need special permits to order pizza, and my refrigerator is monitored by the Academy's Department of Dangerous Substances. They installed atmospheric scrubbers in my hallway after an incident involving leftover Thai food that sent 3 study groups to the medical bay. But the best part, the absolute best part, is that I've become a legend among human students across the galaxy. There's now a whole underground network of humans at various academies who trade Earth spices like contraband, sharing recipes and survival stories about accidentally poisoning their alien classmates with what we consider normal food. I got a message last week from a human student at the Andromedec Engineering Institute who managed to clear a clogged ventilation system using nothing but some extra-strength breath mints and a can of soda. Another one at the Galactic Medical Academy accidentally cured a rare alien disease by sharing some gummy vitamins. We're not just students anymore. We're living reminders that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe is a species that considers eating poison to be a recreational activity. And the truly beautiful thing? None of us are trying to be dangerous. We're just trying to make the Academy food taste like something other than recycled cardboard. The fact that our seasoning preferences could be classified as weapons of mass destruction is just a happy coincidence. All right, class, I announce, holding up today's lesson plan. Who's ready to learn about the biochemical effects of ranch dressing? 12 aliens simultaneously reach for their emergency communicators. Just another day in advanced education, human style.